Two twins brutally killed their mother without no remorse, went on life as normal, and blamed it on her boyfriend? What? Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Serious Sunday. So in this episode of Serious Sunday, before we even get into it, I want to say I know my Serious Sundays has been lacking a little bit. I have not been keeping up with my series. I've just been really busy with school, my business, and going to work full time. I'm a little all over the place, but I am getting back into it. It is now October. I promised you guys a video October 1st or October 2nd, which is the first Sunday of October, but I was busy. I had to do some orders and I just could not squeeze this video in. I've been trying to do this video for so long, and I really just ready to get this out there. We need to talk about this. This case has been highly requested by many of my Serious Sunday viewers, and I really just wanted to get this one out there. Nikki Whitehead had a pretty, I don't want to say terrible upbringing, but let's start off with saying that she was born in prison. Okay, so Nikki Whitehead did not have the best childhood or best relationship when it came to her mother. She was raised by her grandmother, who pretty much had no rules in the house. Nikki was allowed to go in and out the house whenever she pleased. She had no curfew. She was disrespectful. She just did not care. With that being said, loose rules come with loose decisions and lack of thinking. Unfortunately, she did fall pregnant at 17 years old with twins Tasmia and Jasmia. In the beginning of Tasmia and Jasmia life, Nikki wasn't too involved. She was still living the fast life, and at some point, once the girls were about preteen, 12, 13 years old, that's when Nikki decided, I'm ready to take my girls. I'm ready to be responsible. I want to be in their life 100%. So she took the girls. She moved out into the suburbs away from Nikki's grandmother, but the children's great grandmother. Now, the kids did not like this at all because obviously from the way Nikki was raised, the kids were being raised the same exact way. No curfew. They kind of was doing whatever they want. However, in school, they did have good grades, straight A's, things like that. Wasn't a problem in school, but they kind of just did whatever they want. When the girls were with Nikki, she did spoil them. She gave them a great life, hair. Make sure the hair was always done. Make sure the makeup was always done. They had the latest clothes, designer shoes, everything at such a young age. They were already spoiled because Nikki wanted so bad for them to love her and basically have that relationship that she didn't have with her mom. And now that she was trying to get her life together, and she kind of just want her kids to just love her. But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. The twins, Tasmia and Jasmia, began rebelling against their mother without question. They didn't want to hear the word no. They didn't want a curfew. They wanted to talk to boys who were 17, 18 years old. They did not care. They kind of wanted to do whatever they wanted to do without say. So as time went on, 14, 15 years old, they obviously got worse once they got into high school. Completely just got worse, and the mom didn't really know how to take it, so they would get into arguments a lot, even turning physical, to the point where Nikki called the police herself on her kids. Before we get into that, I do want to mention that before this, there was a time where Nikki initially called the police because she woke up in the middle of the night and one of her twins were gone. Her girl was only 13 at the time. Now, I don't know which one is which because they look just alike. One has a mole and one does not, and I've not figured out which one left at 13 years old, left the house. But she was frantic, terrified, and turns out the 13-year-old was just out with her 17-year-old boyfriend. So let's get into the very first, or one of the main cause before the actual murder took place. Nikki called the police because she was being brutally attacked by both of her kids. Cop got there, she spoke with the kids, she took them in the room. The cop said that all she saw in their closets were designer clothes, designer bags, designer shoes. They looked like they had such a good life. So she was just confused as to why they're so angry. The kids actually flipped it on Nikki and said Nikki tried to attack them and they were just defending themselves. Which is 2 against 1. I get it. There's 2 daughters, but at the 13, 14-year age, they're pretty big. Like, they're not like kids. They're teenagers. So it was kind of iffy, but the cop said when she looked in Nikki's eyes, it was pretty much like, You saw the fear in her eyes for sure. She was terrified of these kids, and she was just scared for her life. After the cops spoke with the girls, they pretty much just came to the agreement, we'll go to bed. We'll just call our grandmother in the morning and maybe we can go stay with her for a little bit for the weekend or whatever the case was. Everything was cool. They came to that agreement. The cop left the house. When the cop left the house, she decided she just had like this weird feeling in her gut. She kind of stayed in the perimeter, went around the block a few times. By the time she came back around, she automatically heard screaming from the house. And then she saw Nikki Whitehead run out of the house with a cordless phone in her hand, screaming for help, screaming bloody murder, crying. She had scratches all over her. Her clothes were ripped. She looked like she was just attacked by a wild animal. Nikki told the cop the kids attacked her as soon as she left, pulling her hair, punching her, scratching her, ripping her clothes off. It just completely attacked her. She tried to call 911 and she finally got away when she ran out the house, of course. Cop went in and again they flipped it on Nikki and said, well, we were just defending ourselves. She's trying to beat us as soon as you walked out the door. But the cop kind of knew better looking at the scratches and the bruises. And obviously, Nikki was clearly violently beaten and scratched up versus the twins, who more had like defense wounds on them. So, due to this incident, the twins and Nikki was actually mandated to go to therapy, some sort of counseling to kind of mend the relationship and get past the traumatic experiences and the drama and the violence that they've been going through this entire time. It kind of sucks because all Nikki wanted to do was get her kids back, take them out to the suburbs, give them a better life than what she had growing up. Make sure they had guidelines and strict rules, not too strict, but strict guidelines to where they don't end up like her at 17 and pregnant. Twins just did not want to hear it. They did not care. They did not want to be around Nikki. They did not like Nikki. They literally hated her. And it was sad. And other members in the family just pretty much said, oh no, they're just teenagers. They'll get past it. They'll get past it. But there's no need to hate your mother that much to the point where you're brutally beating her just because of the word no. One mid-afternoon, when the girls came home from school, they walked in the house and they screamed bloody murder. They immediately called the police and told the police that they found their mother dead in a bathtub, and they were frantic. They were scared. They didn't know what to do. The cops came to the scene and they stated that this was one of the most brutal, bloodiest, messiest scenes of their lives. Seems like this was a rampage, more of like a massacre. When the cops got there, they walked in, blood everywhere, broken dishes, broken items all over the house, TVs knocked over, pots all over the place. It was terrible. It looks like I said, it was rampage. Obviously, as the crime scene investigated, everybody's, getting the scene blocked off, doing what they need to do. And so what the police do, they took the girls into the station to console them, see if they can get any type of information out of them, find out who did this to their mother. Medical examiner stated that Nikki was stabbed 80 times. So this was definitely a act of hate, act of anger, and just so much built inside whoever did this. The fact that she was stabbed 80 times to the point where her spinal cord was nearly severed. Almost completely severed. That is ridiculous to me. What could she have done to provoke something so brutal? As the girls were on their way to the station, one of the girls is actually biting her arm, and the cop realized this from the rearview mirror, and he's like, what are you doing? Obviously that's a little suspicious and not a normal nervous tactic. But of course, that's what she blamed it on. She just said, I do this when I'm nervous. I'm just really scared. I want my mom. I want my grandma. Da, 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 da. And he's looking like, okay, he's gonna note that in his head, but it's just a little off. It's not the same as nail biting or shaking or sucking your thumb even. Like, I don't know, it's just not normal to just bite your arm in a specific way. It was just a little awkward. So the girls did have a dad, and of course that was the first suspect. Any ex-boyfriends or anything like that, any ex-angry partners, anybody they had a bad falling out with, things like that. They checked out the father. He was completely checked out. First of all, he lived in Canada, not even a suspect, not even for a minute. Alibi checked out right away, without question. After speaking to the girls a little bit, they did state that Nikki was cheating on her boyfriend, and the boyfriend did find out. Now, from a police aspect, that's like the perfect story. Boyfriend found girlfriend cheating, kills girlfriend. Boom. Like, it happens. It sucks, but it happens. So they took that, they ran with it. They looked into the guy. His name was Robert. They looked into him, and he was completely checked out as well as this other affair that was going on, completely checked out. He did admit that they were arguing the night before, but his alibi was completely checked out. I believe there was like video footage of where he was that morning. So couldn't have been him or the affair. So it couldn't have been those two. Now we have to look a little bit closer to Nikki to figure out who actually did this to her, because this was obviously, like I stated, an act of anger, hatred, rage. It was so brutal that there's no way a stranger could have done this. Girls in the station were pretty soft spoken, whining, crying, without tears, of course. Whining, just saying, I want my mom, I want my grandma, like, oh, I'm so sad, I can't believe this happened, we gotta find out who did this. And the police is looking at them, and they just said, we're trying to help you guys. What can we do to help you? What do you need from us? How can we make you comfortable? And one of the twins looked up at him and said, can we watch an episode of CSI? That automatically is a red flag, because your mom just died, and they're asking you if you need any help, or need anything to make you feel more comfortable, and you're asking for an episode of CSI. It's a little suspect. It's a little off the radar. That definitely made all eyes turn on them immediately. As they were slowly turning to them, it was like immediate. Like, it wasn't a slow thing anymore. It was immediate. Like, okay, now you're a suspect. Now the investigator came in and sat down with them and was like, okay, tell me what happened. What did you see? The twins just began whining and just said, well, I walked in the house after school, put my bags down. I walked into the kitchen, saw blood everywhere. I went into the bathroom, and that's where I found my mom. Obviously immediately called the police. So, okay. Sounds typical, that any typical, you know, that's how anyone would react. But they dove a little deeper into it as they realized both of the girls had on gloves. Like, yes, it was cold out, but we're inside now. Why do you still have on your gloves? So the police asked them to take off their gloves, and they had scratches all over their hands and arms. Both of them, it looks like a cat fight. So they asked, like, where do you get all these scratches from? And they're just like, oh yeah, I just got into a fight at school. Okay, they're teenage girls. Doesn't seem too out of line, but things are just starting to come together like hot glue. It is just crazy. Not working in their favor at all. The police investigators asked the girls to describe their mother, to kind of get a better feel of the victim, to kind of see, who she could have had any problems with or anything like that. They completely destroyed their mother while she's dead. They completely talked down upon her. They talked terrible about her, say she was this, that, and the fifth. Just all the worst things in the world. But if your mother just died, I don't care how she treated you, you're going to speak decent of her, highly of her. I love my mother regardless that, we did have our troubles, but she did everything for me. She's gone. Like, put some respect on her name. And they did the complete opposite. Complete opposite without any hesitation. It's just beyond me. But let's go on and get into the evidence at the crime scene. First thing they noticed in the house, like I said, blood everywhere. However, the sinks were weirdly clean, um, sparkly clean. You can tell there was bleach that was used in all the sinks. Everything was wiped down, and it looks like more of a cleanup. They can see blood smear, but like along where the sinks are, like on the countertops, but the actual sink was clean. So that just doesn't look right. We began finding shoes with blood splatter in the back of the girls' closets. And in the shoes was actually a paper towel full of hair. Now, the investigators did say, like, in a house full of women, a clump of hair is not, out of place. However, when it's wrapped up in paper towel and stuffed in the toe of a shoe and a box in the back of the closet, and the shoes have blood stains on it, that's a red flag. Also, not only that, the clump of the hair, you can see where it was pulled out of the hair and how it was snatched out of the head. So that's another red flag. This is not normal. As things were not adding up, they went to the girls again and asked them to recap their morning. What did they do that morning? So they simply said, we were about 10 minutes, we missed our bus, so we got to school about 10 minutes late. Then we went throughout the school day, and they came home and they found their mother. Nothing bad happened the night before, or like, that morning or anything like that. It's just a normal morning. They just woke up a little late. Ain't wrong, because the police did their jobs and investigated this to a T. One, they actually saw on gas station video footage of the girls hitching a ride to get to school around 10 o'clock. So, with that being said, they definitely did not walk from their house all the way to school if there's evidence of them actually hitching a ride to get to school. They said they got to school about 10 minutes late. They didn't actually get to school until 10:30. 10:34 to be exact. So mid-morning, hours later than 10 minutes late to school when their school started at 7:30. So completely false. That's a red flag. So now that things are starting to obviously point right to the girls, obviously without physical evidence, without DNA evidence yet, they can't hold the girls. So unfortunately, they had to be released, and they went on to live their lives as normal without a care in the world. They was released to their great grandmother, where again they had no curfew, no guidelines, did whatever they want. They went through prom, hanging out with their friends every day, chilling, living their best life, not giving a freak that their mother is dead, just not caring at all. On the last day of school, the cops finally moved in. After finding out that all the blood matched the girls' DNA, being that they're twins, it's hard to differentiate, whose blood it is, but it matched theirs, both of theirs. Also, dental records of Nikki's match the bite marks that was on one of the twins' arms. I believe it was Jazz, on Jazz's arm, which makes sense as to why she was biting her arm in the cop car, to try and kind of block Nikki's bite marks with her own bite marks and label it a nervous tactic. But obviously, she was just covering up evidence. But good thing for Nikki, she did get some hair stuck in her teeth, which belongs to Jazz. So that obviously points her, that's kind of a defense mechanism. And she did get some of her arm hair right in her teeth, which blatantly points right to the twins. So the cops moved in on the girls. They went to go get Taz first. She was actually at home. I'm not sure why she was at home, but she was. And they arrested her. And then they went to school and got Jazz. They were kind of fearful that they would actually end up fleeing the country, just because it was kind of, even though the cops kind of kept everything on the low, they just had that fear. So they wanted to make sure they got them when they could and not wait till like after graduation. In the actual cop car when they were arrested, the girls were immensely aggressive. Without question, they were very hostile, aggressive, just being really disrespectful. The girls were charged with felony murder. Not only did they murder their mother without a care in the world, stabbing her 80 times, completely tore up the house, they even had a journal where they planned to murder their mother. Not necessarily this day, but they literally said, we need to get rid of her before it's too late. They hated their mother guts, and there's no reason in the world for it other than they did not want to hear the word no, which is disgusting. So after 4 years of waiting on trial, the girls decided to come forward and confess. More like their lawyers decided to come forward and confess, and obviously they just did it so they won't get life in prison, so they won't get the worst sentence, because they just copped out and they were cowards, and they really just did it for their own best interest. They didn't do it because they were remorseful. They didn't do it because it's time to come clean and I have this chip on my shoulder. No, they came clean because they wanted a lower sentence, and that's exactly what they got. They were sentenced to 30 years in jail, which means that they will only get out when they're in their 40s. They're going to kill again. For them to have that much hatred in their heart for someone is disgusting, and I don't see why they would even be let out into society. Not only for somebody random, but for their own mother, the one who gave birth to them and cared for them and gave them the lifestyle that they loved and flourished, but they just didn't want to hear the word no. if all it takes is to hear the word no for them to snap like that, they're not ready to be back in society. I don't care, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they need life in prison, because that's just terrible. That's just terrible. Okay, so let's get into the confession, because their confession was complete BS. I mean, obviously there's some truth to it, but I think there was more that was done in the house just due to how bad the house was described. But I think they gave more like a general confession, not literally every detail, which whatever, but I feel like they deserve to let out the truth. And I also want to know like more deeper into why they hated her so much. Like, do they realize how stupid they are? That's what I really want to know, but I don't think I'm gonna get that answer. I don't think they have an answer. I don't think they care. I really don't. But let's get into the confession. So the girls stated that Nikki woke them up for school, and being that the girls were up late last night till like 1, 2 a.m., they were really tired. They did not want to get up, and Nikki kept, going in their room saying, "You gotta get up, you gotta get up." And the girls completely lashed out. The mom was in the kitchen, and they came in and took a vase that was on the table and smashed it over their head. Then the other twin grabbed a pot and completely slammed it over her head, and they're attacking her. Nikki had no chance of winning this fight. One of them grabbed a kitchen knife and just started stabbing her, while the other one is like choking her. It was disgusting the way they did this. One of them somehow found a metal ribbon and began slicing her, just like almost like a knife. I don't know if she just couldn't get to a knife, and the other one did get to a knife, and this one just found something quick. Everything happened so fast and was just slicing. Some point in the middle of this fight, Nikki actually got away and ran next door to a nearby neighbor. Banged on his door, rung his doorbell, but unfortunately he was asleep and did not get to the door. And the twins came and picked her up and dragged her back into the house, where they continually to beat her and stab her and choke her and just literally kill her. And honestly, I that neighbor could have saved her life if he was just up. And he said he heard the doorbell and he heard the door, but he didn't get up. He was tired and he didn't feel like getting up to answer the door, which is kind of like eerie, because sometimes I hear the doorbell if it's early. I'm like, it's probably like, you know, package, or I don't freaking know, someone's selling books. Like, I don't know, I just lay there. I'm like, I'm not getting up. But if he would have got up, he could have saved her life. And I don't know if he lives with that guilt or not. I would, if I knew that I could have saved a life, if I would have got my ass up and opened the door. But what happened, unfortunately. The girls picked her up and placed her in the tub and turned the water on as Nikki slowly died. She was limp. She couldn't fight, and she couldn't fight back anymore. At one point, she did bite. I believe it was Jazz. She did bite Jazz. That's how, the dental records and all that came about, and matching the bite mark to Jazz's arm. That all came about, but she honestly had no fight in her left after being stabbed 80 times, brutally beaten, blood everywhere, completely being knocked over the head with multiple items throughout the house. This fight must have happened all over the house, because the police investigators said the house was completely damaged. There was blood everywhere. There was even blood dripping to the house next door and all over his front step. So she was dying. She was bleeding out. So the cops asked, like, did your mom say anything, any last words? And her final words were, "Kill me now or I'll kill you." And then the twin said that she just slowly went under. She was like bubbling, like, trying to breathe, and eventually just died and drowned. And obviously fell to her injuries and could not survive that. They began to clean up, try to fabricate the crime scene a little bit, clean up a little bit, and then hurry up and make their way to school where they can have this alibi. That is like so terrible. And when they gave the confession, they had no emotion. They just said, this is what we did. That's what we did. Yep, we stabbed her. And then we placed her in the tub, turned on the water, and watched her go under to make sure she was dead. How does that not deserve a life sentence? I don't care, confession or not. I would not have offered a plea deal. There would be nothing. Like, are you kidding me? They need to be locked up for life. And the sad part is that Nikki, she got some justice, but I don't think she got enough justice. She dealt with hell with those kids. They deserve life. One of the girls, Jazz, actually graduated in high school or from high school while in jail. She graduated as valedictorian in her class. And the great grandmother was just oh so proud. I'm like, how could you be so proud that your great granddaughter killed your daughter? I don't care. Kill my daughter. I don't care who you are. You're dead to me. You're dead to me. There's no excuse. I wonder what they told. I wonder if like the grandmother even believes that they did it or not. The grandmother is like the root to the problem. Like they need to be left in there to rot in hell, and you're coming there, you're visiting them, and you're saying, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." Huh? You're proud that you killed your daughter? That alone is just suspect. Like, what the hell? This story was ridiculous. Rest in peace to Nikki Whitehead. Man, I hope you're doing better now that you're away from your daughters. Unfortunately, she's gone, but it's probably better than being here with her evil daughter. So she's probably she's probably like the real winner here, but yeah. All right, so that's all for this video. Leave your comments down below. If you have any other suggestions, please leave them below. Let me know what you think about this case. Do you think 30 years is enough? Do you think they deserve life? Do you think the grandmother had anything to do with it? Do you think the grandmother actually cared that her daughter is gone? Because I don't think so. I personally don't think so. That is just ridiculous. But that's all. I am done rambling. Make sure you guys follow me on all my social medias. Check out all my true crime series. And also check out my other videos. As you guys know, my channel is a mutt. It has everything. It has vlogs. It has reviews. It has hair products and, hair tutorials and cooking videos and everything else under the sun and entrepreneur lifestyle videos because I do have my own business. So just go over to my playlist and pick whichever topic you want to dive into or whatever type of content you want to dive into and binge. Okay? Get your girl monetized. Appreciate it. No, I am done with today's video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.